Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about pricing of developers. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, why is it that people pay $100 per hour for a Western software developer when they can pay $20 for an Indian one who has the same skill and experience? Well, culture. That's probably the answer right there. And then of course it's easy for me to say skills and so forth, but it's usually a combination of the two. Let me explain this a little bit. So when you go and shop for clothes, is your first instinct to go on like a retailing website from a third world country and try to find the cheapest T-shirt or pants or whatever that you can possibly find on the market? Is the same thing true for buying cars or food or things like that? So usually how a person do their shopping is that they have a sphere of comfort or understanding, or you go sort of, when you're hiring people or you're buying things, you usually have a range of things where you sort of start looking for things that are close to home, if that makes sense. And it's very normal for companies to start in that region where they basically hire people sort of close to wherever they are for various reasons, everything from culture to language to etc etc, and like distances, time zones. There are all these nuances to why a person would hire somebody from within their own area. It's sort of like asking, why is it that why do we pay our like the native population in the West a salary? It would probably be easy to just mass hire people from third world countries who will work, in some cases will work for some bread, depending on how you look at it. Now there are laws, of course, and so forth and so forth. But I hope that you understand what I'm saying. It's not just about raw, like the figure itself. It is about more nuanced things than that. And then the other part is that if you're paying someone from India or some other place a fraction of the cost, uh, and then the idea is that they have equal skill, that is very, very untrue. Or rather, like, there is no, I mean, you can how you evaluate that. I would be very interested in knowing, because of course there are people from India and other countries who have the same sort of skill, but may not require the same sort of money. But then you can reverse the question: why is it that people who have the same skills as like the Westerners, quote unquote, why aren't they getting paid? Why aren't they asking for more in pay? It seems silly, because the West is not really drowning in software developers. We're talking about a deficit that is so massive that it's hilarious. The thing that I have found, on the other hand, is that when you're paying the sort of money that you're talking about, you are not going to get a highly skilled software developer. And that is based on working with quite a few people from all kinds of areas in the world. You, as the saying goes, you get what you pay for, because there are more people. And I know that this seems weird. I was having this conversation with a senior level, like he's an architect basically. We were talking about this phenomenon that some people in IT seem to completely forget, because they are so invested in software development and IT and so forth. They really push it. They are like the embodiment of the stereotypic rockstar developer. And this guy is a rockstar developer. He's good, really, really good. And so we were talking about that there were job openings now for Jira experts, or people who were specifically good at certain content management systems or this and that, right? And we were talking about people who did manual testing as a job. And so he said, like, he basically asked myself and my Indian coworkers, Like, how is this possible? How can people like invest in such like flimsy technology and like bet their career on something that might not be here tomorrow? And I said, well, it's sort of easy. Money. Money, 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 money. It's just a job to a lot of people. That's the only reason they do it, and the only reason they have learned it is so that someone will pay them to do that thing. That's all they know. They are a one-string banjo, one tool, one thing. That's what they're doing. And my Indian coworker sort of nodded and said, "That is very, very common. That this idea that people are super passionate and they're like rock stars and they're going to go and learn everything and they have the same sort of like talent slash drive to be masters of the IT world is silly. It's not the norm. The norm is that people become consultants, especially in the countries that you're talking about, and they literally do the bare minimum in order to be able to be paid to do the thing that they're getting paid for. It's not uncommon. It's a very normal thing, and I mean, if you look at it in the West, it's not that different. I have tons of people who do the same thing. Like, their question isn't how do I become a super master software developer who is worth quote unquote the sort of $100 money or whatever you're talking about. The question is how do I, with an absolute minimum of effort, get into IT so that I will get paid a salary to do things or stuff like that. And that's why we have quite a lot of consultants. Uh, it really is that simple. So what I want you to take away from this is that the reason why people pay more for Westerners when they could pay less for in outsourcing and so forth is a very complicated topic, but it ranges usually everything from the idea, the idea that the people are equal. That's ludicrous. It's silly. I know for a fact that that's not true. It's not. I mean, just because you're from a country where they outsource a lot of stuff doesn't mean that you're bad. But this idea that you're just getting paid less because of location, etc., etc., and that you're like equally good is not the norm. There are plenty of nuances to skill levels and so forth. It's very hard to determine how good someone is. And so that's the first preconception that isn't true. The other part to it is more culture related, where a lot of companies hire within their own region for various reasons. Everything from that's the first place they would go to look in order to build up like the same sort of culture value system, etc., to labor laws, to name your reason. It's the same thing for you. Why do you shop at a store that might be more expensive than the absolute cheapest place that you could possibly go to, when you could just go on a journey to figure out where that is? Exactly the same thing. It's not always logical. It's not always a numbers game. And then lastly, I would say that the idea that you can outsource talent, or that you can try to get the cheapest talent possible, is, well, it is true that you can do that, but you usually get what you pay for. And on average, the salaries within the West and the different parts of the world are set by talent. How good are people at what they do? And some companies are looking for very cheap labor, and they will find it, I promise you, because as you said, there are people who will do the same quote-unquote job for almost nothing in comparison to other places. But then there are companies who are very, very, very focused on getting the best of the best. And I can promise you this, the best of the best do not work for the same sort of money that the people who will do the minimum in order to be able to take an outsourcing job will do. Have a great day.